Hi everybody, it's Bill Whittle here in Dallas, and we're doing our right angles from the studios of NRA TV here in Dallas. They're kind enough to let us have them for the week. And so it's time for our right angles here from Dallas with Scott Ott here in the same building and Steve Green out in Colorado. Steve, it's your turn. You're up.
And I'm not at all jealous and bitter that I wasn't able to make it down to Dallas to be with you in the studio there.
You just wish you could do this, Steve. You wish you could just reach over and pat Bill Whittle on the shoulder.
I do. I don't get to touch Bill often enough.
I do.
Stop it.
No, I'm going to leave that alone. All right,
Thank you.
We talked about this briefly on the backstage yesterday, but I wanted to get more in depth into this, of course, for our regular viewers. And it's the most bizarre phenomenon I've noticed. On January 20th, a new president was sworn in, and this new president, Donald Trump, was a Putin-worshiping stooge of the Kremlin. That's what all the smart talk has been from the intelligence community, from Democrats, from a certain brand of Republicans. And yet this man, who is guarded by the Secret Service, who is on TV almost every day and all the rest, has gone missing. One of our presidents is missing. Listen, I've got the headlines right here, guys. Just follow along with me here, and then I'll throw this to you guys. Trump offers Russia ambassador post to Putin critic Jon Huntsman. Who saw that coming? Cooperation with Russia in Syria off the table for Trump team. The Pentagon has said, and this is Mattis's Pentagon now, that we're going to let the Russians know when we're coming so we don't end up bombing or shooting each other down. But that's going to be the limits of how we help the Russians in Syria. And finally, actually, I'm going to save the last headline for myself when we get to the end. Bill, what happened to our Kremlin stooge?
Well, the worst thing for American democracy would be if Trump were to destroy the friendly relations that we've had with Russia for the last 20 years.
Since they've been reset.
And the only thing that would be worse than that would be if Trump didn't destroy the relationships that we had with Russia. And I don't really know which one tops which one. I do know that this whole thing seems to be pretty thin. I think it really started as kind of like Hillary Clinton's emotional release. She needed something, and all the rest of these children on the left decided, Steve, we can't have lost. I mean, that's just not possible. Not certainly because of our policies, and it's the convenient storyline. I was reading Victor Davis Hanson again yesterday, and he was talking about the Battle of Shiloh. And they were talking about how if General Albert Sidney Johnson had not fallen when he did, and then they would have won Shiloh, and if they'd won Shiloh, they would have gone to they would have kept Kentucky and Tennessee, and basically they build this entire thing out of the Confederacy would have won the war if only that one bullet hadn't struck Albert Sidney Johnson behind the knee. And that's kind of what they're doing with Russia. They're just inventing this gigantic fantasy for themselves that lets them off the hook for what a horrible candidate she was and what miserable low-life swine they are, as a general rule.
I kind of miss that Bush's fault. Back then it was Bush's fault. Yeah. Now it's Russia's fault.
But Bush always had a nice ring to it, didn't it? I'm sorry, Scott, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, that's all I had on that. But no, actually,
I've got more for you.
Please, fire away.
Speaking of Kremlin stooges, it was Hillary Clinton who promised to what's the word I'm looking for? To force more restrictions on American
sanctions?
Shale oil producers, frackers. That would raise oil prices, which would pull Russia out of the economic slump it's been in since oil prices crashed, and we slapped the sanctions on them. Trump is not going to intimidate the frackers out of business, and he's keeping the sanctions. So who's the real Kremlin stooge, Scott?
Well, first of all, enough of your geostrategery. That's a little too much deep thought there. And every time you say Kremlin stooges, I can't help but see somebody going, nyeh, 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 nyeh. So I think what you're not bringing into this, Steve, is what the media has clearly already told us, which is that this isn't all from Trump. This is the Trump administration at war with itself. Mm-hmm. This is the defense secretary saying one thing and the secretary of state, or at least the State Department, because we've never seen the secretary of state since he was sworn in. It is all of Trump's departments all running counter-narrative stories because it's in complete disarray.
It's chaos, fire and earthquakes. It's
cats and dogs living together.
Floods. It's raining frogs.
So, and that's kind of this weird trap that they find themselves in, is that they've got to blame somebody, and they want to blame the Trump administration. At the same time, they say the Trump administration is not together at all, but somehow they're all helping Russia. It's a house of cards that, you don't even have to pull a card out for the thing to collapse under its own weight.
Well, Bill, before January 20, before he was sworn in, I was a little worried about Trump and Russia. He was talking about recognizing the Crimea annexation, about removing the sanctions and things like that. But he gets into office and he's turned his back on all that. So having seen that, what problem do do Republicans, I guess the Never Trumpers, have with him learning on the job? Why can't they recognize that?
I think most of the Never Trumpers got, speaking for myself, I was never a Never Trumper. I was an always sometime Trump. I don't know what the hell I was.
You're a never Trumper.
I was a never. I wasn't a never Trumper either. No, but seriously, I was thinking that I was wondering if maybe the guys could switch the shot back. That's what I was actually thinking. So this is just a feedback. I see.
It's
now.
awesome.
Forgive us, folks. We're still learning.
Beg your pardon. I'm
like every actor in Hollywood. Bill wants to direct.
I do. No, I just saw Steve up there, and I thought, sorry about that, guys. See, we're not used to working with professionals. That's what's really causing us the problems here.
They're over there right now, removing their names from the credits.
Just to keep this under 30 minutes. All of the whatever doubts I might have had about whether Donald Trump was a secret Democrat who was just doing this for personal glory, and the Republicans are, the entire half of the Republican people of the Republican Party were just chumps. When I saw Mattis' appointment, I thought, meh. And then every single one of them has been exemplary. I don't know how you'd improve on them. So I'm going to judge the man by his actions rather than his words.
And there is still a possibility, I think, that there is no coherent Trump foreign policy with regard to Russia. I'm not saying that is the case, but I'm saying that's one of the live possibilities right now, because there's nobody making that sort of grand speech where they describe what American foreign policy will be, and you do see what appear to be contradictory statements coming from various people in the administration. So perhaps this is all that Donald Trump, as usual, is crazy like a fox, and that eventually, when it all comes out, we'll be able to put the pieces together in hindsight. I'm hoping he's that smart.
It's been a long time since we had a president quite that smart. Listen, guys, I saved what I thought was the best story for last. We were supposed to get this Putin-esque autocrat sitting in the White House, but Andrew Malcolm had a great column a couple of days ago. He said Trump is doing what Obama didn't do. Reach out and listen. And he's not talking about Russia here. He's talking about going to Capitol Hill. When Obama couldn't get his way through Congress, he said, I have a pen and a phone, and if you don't do what I want, I'm going to use them and just write the regulations as if they were law. Trump is actually going to Capitol Hill, and he's reaching out and listening to legislators. He's working with the Congress rather than trying to dictate to Congress. And I think that's a real welcome change after the last 8 years. Do we have a general assent on that one?
I agree.
I don't do the hand-raising thing.
Okay. Scott, you just stay down like this. Okay, well, there it is. One of our presidents is missing. Maybe he'll show up in the next few years. Maybe not.